The war ended on a Tuesday. James Crawford packed his duffel bag. He shook hands with the men he had lived beside for 2 years. He stepped onto a train heading west. He was going home. He should have been happy. He tried to feel happy. He tried to feel relief. He tried to feel something. Nothing came. His brain had kept him alive through 2 years of combat. It had shut down his fear, numbed his grief, silenced his screams. And now, in the silence of a train carrying him away from the war, his brain did not know how to turn those feelings back on. The protection had become the prison. James arrived in Columbus, Ohio, on a gray afternoon. His mother was crying. His father shook his hand for a full minute. The neighbors came out to wave. It was everything he had dreamed about during the long, cold nights at the front. A normal life, a safe life, a life without death. For 2 weeks, he tried to be normal. He ate his mother's cooking. He slept in his old bed. He walked through the streets where he had grown up. But nothing felt right. The colors seemed muted. The sounds seemed distant. The people seemed like actors in a play he no longer understood. His mother asked him what was wrong. He said nothing, because he did not have the words. The war had changed him, not in ways he could see in a mirror, in ways he could feel in his bones. His brain had been rewired for survival, and survival was not needed here. Here, in peacetime, his survival brain had nothing to do. So it kept scanning for threats that did not exist, kept waiting for explosions that would never come, kept him awake at night, listening for sounds that were not there. He was home, but he was not home. Here is what happens to the brain during prolonged combat. It adapts. It has no choice. The amygdala, the alarm system, recalibrates to ignore repeated threats. The prefrontal cortex, the decision maker, hands control over to faster, more primitive circuits. The body runs on adrenaline and cortisol, day after day, week after week. These adaptations save lives. They allow soldiers to function in conditions no human brain was ever designed to handle. They are not weaknesses. They are miracles of neural engineering. But here is the problem. The brain does not know when the war ends. The soldier steps off the train. The guns are silent. The threat is gone. Life is, by every measurable standard, safe. But the amygdala was never informed. The cortisol levels do not return to baseline. The hyper-vigilance does not switch off. James lay in his childhood bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the alarm to stop. It did not stop. It just kept ticking. Day after day, night after night. He was safe, but his brain did not believe it. In a healthy brain, the return to safety triggers a gradual down-regulation of stress responses. The alarm's quiet. The cortisol fades. The body remembers how to relax. But for some soldiers, the reboot fails. The brain has been in survival mode for so long that it no longer knows how to exit. Psychiatrists call this post-traumatic stress disorder. But that name does not capture what it feels like from the inside. James felt like a machine that had been running too hot for too long. And now, even though the load was gone, the fans would not slow down. The engine would not cool. Something inside him was stuck. He could not sleep. When he did sleep, he dreamed of the war. Not the dramatic moments, the small ones. Miller laughing, Eddie smoking, the taste of cold coffee in a foxhole. He woke up from those dreams and reached for a rifle that was not there. His hand grabbed empty air. And in that emptiness, he felt something worse than fear. He felt lost. Then slowly, the emotions began to return. But they did not return in the right order. They did not return in the right amounts. James would be sitting at the dinner table, and suddenly he would feel rage. Rage at nothing. Rage at a spoon. Rage at the way his mother chewed her food. Then the rage would disappear, and he would feel nothing again. Flat, empty, grey. Other times, he would cry. Not at sad things, at nothing. A commercial, a song, the way the light fell through the window. The tears would come without warning, without reason, without his permission. His family did not understand. How could they? He did not understand it himself. His brain had spent 2 years suppressing emotion to keep him alive. Now it was trying to turn the faucet back on. But the faucet was broken. Sometimes nothing came out. Sometimes everything came out at once, and he could not control which. Psychologists call this emotional dysregulation. James called it living in a body that did not belong to him. James was lucky. He did not know it then, but he was lucky because some men did not survive the peace. He had heard about them. Veterans who came home whole and then fell apart. Men who stopped eating. Men who stopped talking. Men who just sat in chairs, staring at walls, waiting for something that never came. One of them was named Daniel. James met him in a veterans housing unit. Daniel had survived Iwo Jima. He had survived 2 years of island warfare. He came home without a scratch. 6 months later, he was dead. He did not kill himself. He just faded, slower and slower, like a clock winding down. Until one morning, his mother brought him breakfast and found him still in bed. His eyes were open. He was not asleep. He had simply stopped. James went to the funeral. He stood in the back. He did not know what to say to Daniel's mother. What do you say to a woman whose son survived a war and then died on her sofa? He said nothing. He shook her hand. He left. That night, he lay in his own bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Daniel, about the crying he had heard through the thin wall, about the silence that followed. And he wondered if that was waiting for him too. What makes the difference? Why do some veterans recover while others collapse? Researchers have studied this question for decades. The answers are not simple. Genetics play a role. So does the severity and duration of combat exposure. So does the quality of social support after returning home. So does the presence or absence of other traumatic experiences before the war. But one factor stands out: the ability to feel safe again. Not just to be safe, to feel safe. James had a family who loved him, a mother who cooked his favorite meals, a father who did not push him to talk, a childhood home that had not changed. These things did not cure him, but they held him. They gave him something to hold on to while his brain slowly, painfully learned to reboot. Daniel did not have that. His father was dead. His mother was distant. He came home to an empty apartment and a silence that swallowed him whole. His brain tried to reboot, but without anyone to hold on to, the reboot failed and he faded away. James did not heal. Not really. The war did not leave him, but over time, he learned to live alongside it. The nightmares became less frequent. The rage became less explosive. The tears came less often. And when they came for reasons he could understand. It took years, decades. He did not do it alone. His wife, his children, a therapist he saw twice a month for 5 years, a support group of other veterans who understood without needing explanations. His brain did not return to what it was before the war. That was impossible. The war had left permanent traces, new pathways, new patterns, a new normal. But the reboot did not fail completely. He found a way to live, not the way he had lived before, a different way, a harder way, but a way. The brain that protected him during war turned on him during peace, not because it was broken, because it had done its job too well. It learned to survive, and it could not unlearn. James survived the war, then he survived the peace, not because he was strong, because he was held by people who did not give up, by a brain that eventually, slowly, found a way to reboot. Not all the way back, but far enough. Every episode of War Inside the Head tracks what combat does to the brain. Not the explosions, the silence afterward, not the trauma, the transformation. Next episode, the psychology of a Nazi soldier. What made them obey? If this stayed with you, hit subscribe, because some wars never end.